Everyone, it's Carly here. I'm sorry the quality is a little bit rubbish. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm recording this on my laptop, not my camera. My camera is charging at the moment, so we'll see. I'm here today as part of our April Showers feature to talk about the 5 books that have made me cry the most. It's actually quite a lot of books that make me cry because I'm a bit of a crier. I'm kind of known for being a bit of a wuss and crying about everything. So it's hard to narrow it down to a top 5. But here we go. This is my list. Book 1 is a UK YA debut, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with as it came out a few years ago and it was a huge success, and that is Being Billy by Phil Earle. I'm a massive fan of all of Phil Earle's books. I think he's an absolutely amazing writer, and I've been emotional in pretty much all of his books, but this is the one that really made me cry the most. I won't tell you what scene it was in case you haven't read it, but I'm pretty sure most of you could probably guess whereabouts. Let's just say it's about boxing. This is a brilliant book. If you haven't read it before, I really recommend it. Even if it doesn't make you cry, it's still an amazing read. Book 2 is Noah Barleywater Runs Away by John Boyne. This is one of the books that I have cried over the most. I actually started to get a bit hysterical. I remember I was reading it in the bath and people in my house could actually overhear me sobbing from the bathroom and came to make sure that nothing was wrong because I was crying so loudly. But there is just a bit near the end and oh my god, it absolutely destroyed me. Every time I think about it, it makes me a little bit emotional. But this is an amazing book if you haven't read it, and this is the hardback copy, and as you can see, it's absolutely gorgeous. So there we go, stick that on your list if you haven't read it and you fancy a good cry. Number 3 is one that's not hugely well known. I actually watched the movie before I read the book. And I loved the movie. I was going through a bit of an Elijah Wood phase after the first Lord of the Rings movie came out, so I was watching everything he'd been in so far, and this was one of the films I watched, and I really connected with it. And then when I saw it was based on a book, I bought the book straight away and cried a lot, and that is The Bumblebee Flies Anyway by Robert Cormier. I don't think this is one of his most famous books, but it's my favourite of his. He's a really great writer actually. If you haven't read anything by him, I really recommend his stuff. Number 4 is a bit of a children's classic. It is one of the Narnia books, and although I love all of the Narnia books, this one is my favourite, and it's not the most conventional choice, but it is The Horse and His Boy, which I think is number 3. Yes, it's number 3 in the series. It is about a boy called Shasta, and he basically goes on an adventure with a talking horse called Bree, and it's the relationship between those two, which is just really lovely, and the way it develops, and some of the writing is beautiful, and yeah, it made me weep like a baby. Usually anything to do with animals will make me cry. Yeah, it's a really brilliant book. It's an absolute classic, and if you haven't read it, you really should have. I was a bit undecided about my 5th book because if you've watched my last video, you'll know that Patrick Ness pretty much destroys me with every single book that he writes. So I knew I wanted to feature a Patrick Ness book, but I wasn't sure which one. And I love the Chaos Walking series. It's my favourite series, but as I'd already done a video on The Knife of Never Letting Go, I decided to go with A Monster Calls. What else? Who has read this book and not cried? I don't think any of you can say that. If you can get through this book without crying, then wow, you are a stronger person than me. By the end, I was just an absolute mess. But if you've read this one, you'll know how absolutely beautiful and affecting it is. So I'm really pleased to make this the last book on my list. So there you have it. That is the top 5 books that make me cry. What would be on your list? What book makes you cry the most? Have you read any of these books? And if you have, what did you think of them? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you all again in a couple of weeks. Bye!